Hello everyone and welcome back to another Kred Studios Kredcast. I'm your host Crimson Kramer, otherwise known as Cole. If you want to check out my main channel, the link is in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to both channels. Don't forget to share the videos around with your friends and family and whoever else you are feel like is going to be interested in these topics. And today I am by myself because I am at my parents' house babysitting the dog and house sitting the house. But I still want to talk about this topic because it is the end of the year. 2016 is coming to a close. We're going into 2017 with a lot more games and a lot more promises of like just a huge technological step up, where I feel like 2017 is going to be a great year for video games. But I did want to talk about the games of 2016, specifically the games of the FPS genre. Like, we had basically 5 games that came out this year that were first-person shooters, and it's been a big year for FPS games, and there's such a variety of the FPS games that came out this year that I felt like I wanted to talk about it. And I'm basically going to start this list from my least favorite moving up to my favorite. And with that, let's get started with the first one, which a lot of people, you're gonna know it. Call of Duty. It sucks. It's the same cookie cutter bullshit over and over again, but now they're trying to implement like Halo aspects to it, where it's not too futuristic, but it's still sticking with the whole war franchise, but it's not really working for them because they can't really go anywhere else with war except forward, and at this point it's just become more Halo than it has Call of Duty. And the only redeeming quality is that they made the remastered Modern Warfare, which you can only get by buying the new game, so that made it really suck, and that disappointed a lot of people, and it doesn't really matter because Call of Duty is still going to be a thing. I guarantee there's going to be another Call of Duty in 2017. It's never going to stop. It's never going to end. When will they learn that the same bullshit will not work for them? Probably when it stops making them money, which will never be. Next topic is Battleborn. Battleborn is a different type of FPS. It is a MOBA, which is a massive online battle arena, but it falls under the FPS because of it's an FPS. So I don't really know what I want to say about this game, except that it was very disappointing in the way that it is more cartoony and supposed to be slapstick funny than a serious type of MOBA, which a lot of people wanted. Like, the mechanics of the game were fantastic. Like, the whole leveling up system. It's kind of like how you level up in, kind of like in League of Legends in a way, where you level up your character as you play. You don't have your character and you don't customize them beforehand. Except for, like, your equipment and stuff in a way, where that's not even the same. Kind of like, more like runes and masteries than equipment that you gain during the match. Because when you level up your character, you have different options for the character abilities. Like, there's this one guy who's a soldier who's got a automatic, like, he has a standard assault rifle. However, once you reach a certain level, I think like 2 or 3, you can choose either to have a red dot sight for close range combat or a ACOG sight for distance shooting. So, like, it varies. Like, if you want to be someone who runs up and wants to spray your gun all over the place and be on the front lines, then you go for the red dot sight. But if you want to play from a distance and have better accuracy, you choose the ACOG sight. And that's the difference between the character, like, for the character when they level up, and that's amazing. And as you level up the character, you gain different unlocks for those other unlocks. So, like, instead of having to choose one of those 2 options, there could always be a third option that comes up in the middle. And I think that's kind of cool. It kind of shows that you play that character a lot and you know how to play that character a lot. And it would be great for competitive if there was a competitive side to it if Overwatch never came out. Now, the whole thing with Battleborn is that I feel like it's not being very successful for 2 reasons. One, the company that makes it is the same company that makes Borderlands. Borderlands is being very cartoony. Then, on the other hand, you have Blizzard, who's a very serious company. They take their games very seriously. Yes, there's a little comedy here and there, But overall, you're playing that game because it's a very serious game, and that's what you do in a Blizzard game. You take it seriously. Where Borderlands is kind of more like a fun, goofy uncle, well, Blizzard is a very serious, hardcore relative who wants shit done and gets it done. And basically, I kind of combine the two things together. It's the company difference. You have a company that makes Borderlands, which is a generically silly game. Then you have the company of Blizzard, which makes a very serious, very epic world of what the game is. And I just feel like Blizzard is going to win that overall because it's Blizzard. They are known to have this grand scheme of like very good games, so people are going to go more towards Overwatch than they would Battleborn. Plus, like what I said, Battleborn is very silly because a lot of the characters, they're very generic characters. You have your big buff guy with a small tiny head. You have your soldier who's stupid. You have a birdman who makes bird puns. You have a mushroom lady who's a ninja. You have a samurai who uses energy. You have an elf with a bow and arrow. You have these very generic characters that kind of just don't appeal to what the people wanted. It tried to be something more, but because it was silly, I feel like it failed. And plus, it was made by the people who made Borderlands compared to people who made Overwatch. Overwatch is going to win most of the time. And that is my stand on Battleborn. Now I'm going to move to a more serious game, which is Battlefield 1. And I feel like Battlefield 1 made a huge impact on the FPS community as a game that's more realistic than anything else that I've played. Like Battlefield 4, it honestly started with Battlefield 3 for me, and then moved on to Battlefield 4, where the gun customization was very different. It was very unique. You basically customized the gun down to the barrel, and it had, like, bullet drop. This scope does this. This muzzle hides your flash, but it adds to recoil. Or this grip is good for moving while shooting, while this grip is good for stabilizing. And then you had the bipod, which actually worked. If you laid down, your character would set up the bipod, or if you kneeled towards a like a railing or some type of cover, you would pull out the bipod and use the bipod. And it made stability even fantastic, like more fantastic. Like you didn't have to hold your breath to shoot because it was already stable enough as it is. And Battlefield felt very on the more realistic side than Call of Duty ever did. But now that Battlefield 1 came out, realism stepped up a fuck ton. Like, first off, the game takes place in World War I, where there wasn't really a lot of gun customization. There was very few select guns to choose from. So it very much sticks to that level of, there's only these sets of guns, here you go, use what you can, and that's great for the time period. But I just feel like that kind of just gets old really fast. Like all you have for like certain classes is the same three guns. The only difference is this one has a scope, this one's standard, and this one shoots faster. That's pretty much the only difference between the guns, which is kind of like my little pet peeve to the game. Also, the game isn't very much like holding your hand about it. You gonna die. This game straight up is just like, this is World War I. We're not joking around. There's gonna be a lot of death going on. Strap yourself in. You might get post-traumatic stress disorder from playing this game. Like, the story mode even like has some missions where it's like, don't expect your character to live. Your character is meant to die. Play as long as you can, survive as long as you can, but just remember, you're going to die. And it's very serious in that sense of, this is not a fake war, this isn't that. This is retelling World War I from a different point of view. Like, this is putting you in the front lines of World War I. You're not reading this out of a textbook. You are experiencing this firsthand through a video game. it's pretty much like learning history through a video game by having you interact with it, which blows my mind, and it's very fantastic and very well done. But on the multiplayer side of it, you want to play it with friends because it's very push and pull, not cookie cutter. It's just very much because of the technological disadvantages of 1920 when World War I was being fought. You kind of just had to do the same thing. You kind of just have to do the same thing over and over again. Like, it's not like the big maps of Battlefield 4 where they're big and wide. It's very linear in the way that you approach it. You can't really sneak around as easily as you could in Battlefield 4, because in Battlefield 4 you had silence, you had suppressors, you have people who could shoot people from all the way across the map with the scopes that they have and the powers of the gun and the barrels that you can add, compared to this game where the gun customization only comes down to the magnification of you aiming down the sight, adding a bayonet to the end of your gun or not, or choosing whether or not you want a scope on your gun or not. Like, that's all the gun customization is in Battlefield 1, which is great for, keeping to the realism of the time, but bad for a competitive FPS. Now, it's not a bad game. I play it all the time, but I only play it with friends. I don't play it by myself because of that whole realism meets mechanic. It's not fun to play by myself. I don't find it fun to play by myself. I'd rather play it with a group of friends. Even if you play it with one other friend, you two can joke around and have fun with it. And if you have a band of people, you could take it a little more seriously and be like, all right, guys, let's go this way and group up. And, oh, you cover me. Oh, you stay behind and this and that. And you can coordinate with your friends and kind of make a difference within the field of battle. Just remember, it's 64 and 64. Your squad of 5 runs into the group of 20. You can only do so much. And then the rest of your team may not even be how you guys are, where you're all coordinating. It could all just be one person that joined a squad so that way they can get to the front lines as quickly as possible. And that's kind of where the game loses me, where in Battlefield 4, where I could squad up with a group of 5 people and we can coordinate our movements and stuff, and we can actually make a difference because everyone else is doing their own thing as well, but within their squads. So you have these guys who are driving the tank around in this squad, but they're all the way on this end of the map trying to grab this point. Meanwhile, you're over here on this side of the map trying to grab this point, where Battlefield 1 doesn't have that option because of the vehicle and equipment technological disadvantages. And that's all I really have to say about Battlefield 1. I don't think it's a bad game. It's a great game. Graphically, it's amazing. Mechanically, it's amazing. I just feel like over time, it's just going to get a little boring. Kind of like how I felt with Star Wars Battlefront, where it was cool for the first couple of matches, but then it just got repetitive because everyone had the same laser gun and did the same tactics over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm going to move on to the next FPS on this list of basically the 5 FPS games that came out this year, the top ones, which is Overwatch, which won Game of the Year. And I believe it deserves Game of the Year because it did something that no other FPS MOBA did, especially compared to Battleborn. It has this immense story that is told through all of the cinematic trailers, all of the comics, all of the extra stuff that you can buy for the game. I bought the Origins edition, but I bought the Legacy one, so mine came with the big box, the Soldier 76 statue, the book that has all the backstories of all the characters, and it basically explains this story of each character has their own little story. Like Tracer, she was a pilot who got into an accident with a test plane that was supposed to teleport, but instead it affected her in a way where she where she phases in and out of time unless she's wearing this chest piece made by Winston. Winston, he's a monkey who was experimented on to become basically smart and loves humans, this and that. You have Genji, who was part of the mafia, the Yakuza, with his brother, and his brother supposedly killed him because the Yakuza told him to do it because he was dishonoring the family. Like, everyone has, like, their own backstory, and it's just so cool to try to figure out who's who and where all these stories fit in, and it's this whole huge new world to explore within these characters, and it's amazing. And that's just the story element of it, which is sad because the game doesn't have a story mode, so you don't really explore it in the way of within the game itself. It's you have to buy the comics, you have to buy all this other stuff to learn about these characters, or you could look up a video about the characters told by someone who did all the research. But that's all the story element of the game, and there's not even a story mode yet. There's so much that is needed to be learned, not to know per se, like, where these, like, it has any effect on, like, who you play as and this and that, but it's nice enough to be there to let you know what's going on, and that in itself is amazing, that there's all this story, but there's no story mode game, and that's, like, really my only pet peeve, is that there's no story mode game to it. To kind of, like, explain it within the game, you have to have all this other stuff, but it's still a cool story to know in itself, which then also now leads me into the mechanics and the gameplay of the game. It's amazing. It's unlike Battleborn, where you had to fucking unlock characters. They just straight up give you all the characters. You have all the options. You could test out who you want to play as. You could be generic shooter Soldier 76, or you could be as crazy and out there as, like, Junkrat, who just shoots grenade launchers and mines, or even, or even Reinhardt, who's just a big guy with a shield and a hammer. Like, you can play as all these different characters. You can play as a guy who uses a bow and arrow, whose ultimate is to shoot out two giant dragons that go across the entire map. Like, it's such a variety of characters that it's just amazing. And like I said, each character has their own little backstory that you can try to look into. So, like, yeah, there's that side of it, but there's also, the mechanics of the game are amazing. Everyone plays well. They give buffs to character when needs be. Like, recently, they just changed up the character Symmetra to where they changed her up drastically to the point where people were going to play her more, and then, like, with, like, then when they, like, compared to, like, buffing someone like Zenyatta, who used to do a massive amount of damage, yet he was a healer. So, like, he would heal for a lot of damage and then deal a lot of damage. So he was kind of like the in-between character, but they buffed him, they nerfed him a little bit. They buffed up a couple of other characters, and it's become a competitive game compared to Battleborn. You don't hear the Battleborn championships going on, you hear Overwatch championships going on. There's the whole competitive side of Overwatch. There's the whole competitive, there's quick play, and then there's competitive play. There's placement matches that you have to make, this and that. And like I said, it's just the mechanics of the game are amazing. And it definitely deserves Game of the Year. Environmentally, it looks beautiful. The different game modes definitely add something to the MOBA that Battleborn doesn't, where Battleborn is just the same game mode over and over again, where compared to that, you have, you know, for Overwatch, you have the one team either has to move the payload or defend it, or there's a choke point in the middle that everyone has to fight for. There's different game modes, and it's always random. You never choose what game mode you're in. It just throws you into it. But depending on the game mode, it depends on the character that you want to play. So it's like, oh, if you're playing defense, you want to play as Bastion because he sets up in one spot and he's a giant fucking turret. Or you play as Torbjorn, who sets up turrets all over the place and it stops the team from coming in. Whereas, oh, you're playing on the attacking team, you want to play as an attacking character. So you play as Tracer, who can get around all this stuff and get in from behind and do quick damage and jump all over the place and fuck up the enemy team. Or, oh, we need a healer, so you play as Mercy, who literally just heals. She doesn't have a lot of damage, she doesn't do a lot of damage, she's only meant to heal. Like, there's a variety of characters that have a variety of skills and sets, and they break them up into different classes. So you have your attack, defense, heavy defense, support. Like, you have these 5 different classes that you can choose from. And it's just an amazing game, and I play it all the time, and I'm trying to get back in, and I'm trying to get into the competitive side of it. I played one placement match and lost, and I feel like I still have a ways to go before going into that placement professional play style. And now with Overwatch done, it leads me to my final game on this list, which I recently got for Christmas, which is what I've been trying to save up to talk about, which is Titanfall 2. Oh my god, this game is amazing. Titanfall 2 is what I could describe it as what Call of Duty is trying to be, but a lot better. Because it's a separate franchise and it's a different style of game, it's going to do better than Call of Duty. Call of Duty is trying to do the whole wall running thing, but Titanfall, the first one, started that whole trend and that idea. The only problem with Titanfall 1 is that the game didn't do well. It wasn't a finished game. It was straight up all multiplayer, and it was just very lacking of it's like, oh great, you gave us giant robots to pilot. What's the difference between these? You only had 3 options to choose from between the robots. Now in Titanfall 2, there's more class customization between your pilot and even the Titan. There's 6 different Titans that you can choose from. You have your generic soldier Titan. You have a sniper Titan. You have a Titan who's a samurai. You have a Titan who uses a flamethrower. You have a Titan that uses a submachine gun. You have a Titan that uses explosive semi-automatic rounds. It's not a grenade launcher, but it's explosive incendiary rounds. Each Titan has its own specific gun, its specific class, its specific power level, its specific speed. It could do 2 different jumps. This one could hover. This one could hide behind a shield. This one can teleport. This one sets up a giant turret. This one shoots a giant laser from its chest. There's more customization to the Titans and also to the characters themselves within the classes. So you can be a sniper, but with this, and that's the other thing, is that it's not set up within classes, it's set up as abilities. So there's a guy, one of the abilities is a grapple. So it's if you're going to be grappling, you're going to be flying all over the map, but you could also grapple to enemy Titans and take their batteries and blow them up. So you would pick a guy who has anti-Titan equipment, equip him with the grapple, so you can grapple onto the enemy Titan, do what you need to do, jump off, shoot him with your giant laser or giant missiles or whatever to take down the Titan and basically become an anti-Titan person without your Titan. Because when it's a Titan on Titan fight, it's pretty much who's going to win within numbers. But when it's a person on Titan, the Titan will usually win depending on what the person is using. So like I said, if you're a person with a grapple and you're flying all over the place, the Titan really isn't going to be able to keep up with you because you're a lot smaller than the Titan. And if he gets one good shot in, you're dead. But if you're flying all over the map, laying down, electric traps to stun him so he can't see where you are, you jump on top of him, you place your bomb, and then you jump off. It's very much like the feeling of Attack on Titan when you're watching the Survey Corps try to take down the Titans, where it's they're all working within a group of themselves surrounding the Titan, confusing it. That's basically what's going on when it's a pilot on Titan fight. And the Titan and the pilot on pilot fights are even just as amazing. So the idea of the game is that it's not supposed to be realistic at all. The guns aren't very realistic, but that's okay. But it still falls under you have your generic assault rifle. It's an automatic assault rifle. You have your 3-round burst assault rifle. You have your semi-automatic rifle. And then you have the final, more powerful, full automatic rifle. No generic names, nothing that you would recognize. It's not like a P. It's not like you have the P90 gun, and they have their own version where it's the P100. It's all fake guns, but with all different uses. So this one is a energy assault submachine gun. This submachine gun has a high is better for accuracy. This one is more powerful, but it sprays a lot. The guns aren't meant to be realistic, but at the same time, each different gun has its own different specs and different it's different specs and different abilities to the gun. And then as you play with the gun, you level up the gun and you can gain different loadouts for the gun. So like the first one that you always get for a lot of the guns is a not an extra magazine, but more ammo within a magazine. So like this is kind of like where it's kind of like silly because like you do it with a Magnum, which is only supposed to have 6 rounds, but now you give it 8, which is kind of cool because it changes it up a little bit. It's like, oh, this clip is now bigger. It holds 8 bullets instead of 6, and that's cool. But there's also like this one. It's a revolver, but one of the upgrades is that it has ricocheting shots. So if you shoot it out of the wall, the bullet will bounce off the wall, but it won't lose the power of what it necessarily has. So like a lot of the upgrades, it's like extra ammo, faster reloading, faster switching, or like that third crazy power, like the ricocheting shot, or your tactical is more, charges up more the more kills you get with this gun. Like the upgrades are a little it's not realistic, but it's not meant to be a realistic game. And that also leads me to like the environments. Everything is done on like a planet to planet basis. So it's like, oh, this planet is like meant for like, oh, science for big plants. This one is done inside a volcano and this and that. And it's just so environmentally beautiful that it just takes your breath away. And the maps are big for the size of your characters. It's like it's bigger than a Call of Duty map, but smaller than a Battlefield map. And you definitely feel the size of the map when you're a pilot and when you're a Titan. And the Titans are the giant robots that you pilot. So like you definitely feel like when you're a pilot, you can go in and out of buildings. You can go down this corridor, that corridor, this and that. You get in the tight spaces. But then when you call in your Titan, you can only go down the bigger corridors, the big, long fields of whatever, because you're in a giant fucking robot. Like, you definitely feel the size of the maps compared to when you're a person and when you're in the Titan. Like, there's this one map where it's kind of like more of an open valley type situation. Like, there's a couple of hills here and there, but there's this one tower in the middle where if you're a person and you have the grappling hook, you can go to the top and you could snipe up there and you could see the whole map, and it's so huge, and you can kind of see where the people are if you have your sniper scope and you zoom in mad far and you see where they are, and they're so tiny. It's like, oh, this person's so tiny, and you're shooting at them, and you finally get them after 6 shots. But then when you see a Titan from that height, the Titan is huge. It's half the size of the building that you're standing on, and you can clearly see it from all the way across the map. Like, these things are huge, and you're basically an ant compared to them. And you definitely feel the size difference between you and the Titan, and it definitely adds that feeling when you're on a map. So it's like, oh shit, this guy has a Titan. He's chasing me. Better run inside where he can't shoot me. Like, you definitely feel like when you're fighting a Titan, you're fucked if you don't have the equipment. Compared to if it's a Titan on Titan fight, it's like, alright buddy, let's fucking do this. Bah, 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 bah. My Titan's going at this and that. I'm getting up close. I'm doing the melee. It's a fist fight with the Titans. And then, like, even then, like, if your Titan takes enough damage, you could eject so that way you don't die necessarily. You'll shoot straight up, you'll eject from your Titan, and then the Titan explodes after that. It's basically the self-destruct sequence when you do it that way. But then there's also, when you summon your Titan, you don't have to be in the Titan for it to be used. You can control whether or not the Titan does attack, like, or it guards, or it's like, come to me, and he runs to you. And then, like, there's a different upgrade where it's called, like, the assault chip, where if you're not in your Titan and he's in AI mode, the AI is smarter than if someone didn't have that chip, so it fights more strategically rather than just, like, standing there and taking shots and dying. It'll fight more strategically where it'll hide from cover, try to get to you as fast as possible with taking minimum amount of damage. Like, the scenario that I had was I was on here's the scenario that I encountered where I felt this full throttle, where I summoned my Titan, and it ended up on basically the other side of the map. Like, I didn't know, where, aiming had a specific spot where your Titan came in. That was my bad. So I'm trying to run to my Titan, but before I can get to it, the enemy Titan comes up on me, and he's trying to kill me. And I'm like, oh shit, I have to get around him, but there's really nowhere for me to go. So I'm jumping around, avoiding all of his shots, this and that. He finally gets me down a cornered spot, and I felt like I was a gunner. But from then behind him, my Titan comes up and starts kicking the crap out of him. I had the one that was a samurai, so he's got the sword, but he uses a shotgun before you use the sword. Your melee's the sword, so that's stronger when you're close combat, but other than that, you have the shotgun. So he comes up from behind him, ba 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 ba, shooting the shotgun, pulls out the sword, starts cutting at him, and he turns around, and he's like, oh shit, I'm gonna get blown up. But it's from a Titan that's being automatically controlled by the AI to defend me. And I was like, oh shit, my Titan's fighting him. So then what I do is then I grapple up to him, jump on the back of the Titan, take out his battery so then he loses more health, and then I fly off. Then I zip line to my Titan, climb inside, and then perform an execution kill where I cut off the legs of the enemy Titan, stab through the entire middle, and the whole thing blows up, and I survived because my Titan came and defended me when I needed it. And it just adds this whole pilot to Titan relationship where you definitely feel a connection for this thing, even though it isn't real. Like, when I call in my Titan, I depend on that Titan to protect me. And each Titan has its own voice. So, this one has a female voice. The samurai one has, you honor me by getting inside of me, pilot. We are on the move. And and they talk to you. And it's very immersive in the way of, this thing isn't real. It doesn't exist. But the interaction that it has with you as the player makes you feel like it's real. And it's simply amazing. And that is what Titanfall 2 is, and that is how I feel about Titanfall 2. I loved it. It was amazing. All of the games on this list were fantastic except for Call of Duty and Battleborn. Those games could have always stepped it up, but Battleborn could have stepped it up, but they didn't know. It was their first time making a MOBA game, so that gives them a pass. Call of Duty, on the other hand, should really step up their bullshit, because at this point, it's trying to be like Titanfall with the robots, but at the same time, it's trying to be like Halo with the futuristic space battles. And it's not working for Call of Duty. Call of Duty really needs to step it up. However, we're going to see another Call of Duty next year. It's going to be the same cookie-cutter bullshit. It's going to win the same amount of awards. However, it is not going to win Game of the Year, because Overwatch won Game of the Year, and hopefully they change up their whole outlook on Call of Duty, because they're like, oh shit, Call of Duty didn't win Game of the Year. What the hell have we been doing? But that is a discussion for another time, for more people. I am your host, Crimson Kramer, otherwise known as Cole. Like I said at the beginning of this podcast, don't forget to check out everything in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, good gaming. Have a good night, everyone. I'll see you later.